You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, the 18th of December 2013. Quran was ripped up at Birmingham City match. Britain, Iftikhar Shaman killed fighting in Syria, family says. Girl guide group told to ditch God or be expelled. I'm no kafar follows up on Monday's report from Edinburgh where Wayne Stillwell received 10 months for his bacon attack on a Potterau mosque. Casa Pound leader receives 3 months in jail for taking EU flag from EU's Rome offices. France should allow headscarves and teach more Arabic in schools, report to PM. Unemployed told to leave Ireland in desperate move to slash welfare costs. For devout Muslim cabbies in New York City, parking tickets are the price of prayers. Locks changed on Nelson Mandela's grandson's home. Burqa hides honour beating. Thought for the day, and there shall be light in it. And finally, a snail's tail or a tall tale. UK news. Quran was ripped up at Birmingham City match. Police are treating allegations that Boro fans ripped up copies of the Quran to goad Blues supporters during a match as a hate crime. Middlesbrough FC immediately suspended 2 of their fans from all of their games after claims that they provocatively tore out pages from the Muslim holy book during the 2-2 draw last weekend. West Midlands police are treating the incident as a hate crime and are liaising with Cleveland police. PC Tim Gant from West Midlands Police said police are investigating a report of a hate crime which happened during the football match between Birmingham and Middlesbrough on Saturday the 7th of December. Last night, Muslim MP for Perry Bar Khalid Mahmood said the alleged offenders should be charged with incitement to religious hatred. He said if these allegations are proven, then the culprits should be dealt with severely and be charged with incitement. World at 8. I would think the plot are doing their nuts over this one, a really good so-called hate crime to get their teeth into before Christmas. Hope they don't have a real black on white hate crime to interfere with it. Britain, Iftikhar Shaman killed fighting in Syria, family says. A British man who travelled to Syria to fight for a group linked to Al-Qaeda has been killed, his family has said. Iftikhar Shaman from South Sea, Hampshire, said he joined up with the jihadist group the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, ISIS. The 23-year-old, who is thought to have left the UK in the spring, told the BBC it was his duty because Muslims were being slaughtered. The Foreign Office said it was aware of reports of a British national had died. A spokesperson added, the UK has advised for some time against all travel to Syria, where all UK consular services are suspended. As we do not have any representation in Syria, it is extremely difficult to get any confirmation of deaths or injuries, and our options for supporting British nationals there are extremely limited. Mr Jaman's family told the BBC that he was killed while fighting forces loyal to the government. It is believed he was integral in persuading at least 4 or 5 other British residents to travel to Syria to fight. World at 8. From South Sea, I don't think so. Well, not his parents anyway. No Muslim is British or from anywhere in the UK. They should all be known by their origins, not ours. One word, good. The more the merrier. Who die for Allah suits me just fine. Girl guide group told to ditch God or be expelled. A girl guide group faces being thrown out of the National Association after refusing to force members to drop God from the oath. Troop leaders have rejected new rules, saying that the inclusion of God should not be compulsory but a matter of personal choice. But they have now been sent an aggressive letter ordering them to back down or leave Girl Guiding UK at the end of the month. Critics branded the approach a move for exclusion. The guiding promise was altered earlier this year so that members now swear to be true to myself and develop my beliefs rather than the original to love my God, and to serve the Queen and my community in place of to serve the Queen and my country. The Girl Guide promise has been changed after over 100 years of tradition. But Chief Guide Jill Slocum insisted the move opened our arms to welcome even more girls and adults of all faiths and none. The changing of the guide promise earlier this year sparked 839 official complaints from members amidst fears of a split in the movement. In August, one troop in Harrogate, North Yorkshire, vowed to resist the change but was forced to back down by national leaders. World at 8. Clearly these national leaders are suspect, wanting to remove God and put in community as opposed to country. It stinks of multiculturalism and shite. One picture of this showed a guide member in a hijab called Hiba Ali, so no doubt all the rules put in place years ago for our own girls have to be altered for the new Muslim majority. If they don't want to commit to our God and our country, they shouldn't be allowed into the guides. There is desperation and desperation. Surely they aren't that hard up for bums on seats, are they? I'm No Kafar follows up on Monday's report from Edinburgh, where Wayne Stillwell received 10 months for his bacon attack on a Potterrow mosque.
Bacon attack. Be on alert. This follows on from a report that Lynn announced on The World at 8. A man who stuck bacon to the handles of an Edinburgh mosque has been jailed for 10 months. Wayne Stillwell, 25, also horrifically threw rashers of bacon into the place of worship, but was later caught when he was identified on CCTV. How rasher of him, and he gets 10 months in the clink. However, the Imam is pleased. The establishment of law and order are in raptures. They have proved just how multicultural they are. The backblow from this will be yet another exacerbation of the low-level hatred against the Muslims and a complete disgust of the forces of law and order. They, of course, will be unaware of this, as they are completely stupid or simply do not care. It is enough for them to approve their multicultural credentials by kissing the backsides of the Muslims. The more the establishment tries to show just how craven they are, the more low-level hatred they generate in the general population. On any level, 10 months in jail for a stupid prank is completely over the top and gives even more confidence to the Muslims. The guy who did this should not have apologised but should have kept quiet. But if he had, he would probably have got an even longer sentence. However, he did apologise and should be incredulous as to the length of time he will spend in jail. He has lost his job, been separated from his friends and family, and will not be able to find work easily due to his criminal record. This is what I call true multicultural justice that has the aim of completely disarming any form of protest against the creed of the Muslims. The report in the paper then went on to explain that in a separate story we told in June, we explained how a planned visit to the mosque by pupils of Newton Grange Primary had to be cancelled. So at least the perpetrator of this dastardly crime against humanity and defamation of the Muslim cult did some good, after all. I had to look up the word craven, even though I had a notion as to what it meant. It means lacking the least bit of courage, contemptibly faint-hearted, vanquished and defeated. Thank you for listening. Bye.
European news. Casa Pound leader receives 3 months in jail for taking EU flag from EU's Rome offices. Ongoing austerity protests and a national transportation strike brought chaos to Italy on Monday as leaders in the anti-government pitchfork movement vowed to bring their demonstrations to Rome later in the week. Major cities such as Rome, Milan, Naples and Turin experienced serious traffic jams during a morning-long strike called by transit workers' unions. Meanwhile, anti-austerity protests launched last week carried on throughout the country despite some setbacks within the various groups involved. A leader in the group Casa Pound was sentenced Monday to 3 months in jail and fined €100 for tearing down a European Union flag from the EU's Rome offices over the weekend. Simone Di Stefano, the national vice president of the club and fledgling political party, was arrested Saturday during a snap demonstration after he erected a ladder, scaled the EU building and removed the EU flag in an attempt to replace it with an Italian tricolour. Casa Pound and Forza Nuova were demonstrating outside the courthouse as it made its ruling in the case Monday. Both groups have participated in the pitchfork demonstrations, which originally consisted primarily of disgruntled truckers and farmers and has since grown to represent anti-government and anti-European sentiment of all stripes. France should be allowed headscarves and teach more Arabic in schools, report to Prime Minister. France should reverse decades of strict secularism to integrate its immigrant population better, allowing Muslims to wear headscarves in schools and promoting Arabic teaching, according to an iconoclastic report commissioned by the Prime Minister. The document, part of a government review of integration policy, sparked an outcry among conservative opposition politicians and unease amongst the governing socialists. It said France, with Europe's largest Muslim population, should recognise the Arab Oriental dimension of its identity, for example by changing street and place names, rewriting its history curriculum and creating a special day to honour the contribution of immigrant cultures. Although ethnic statistics are officially banned, an estimated 5 million Muslims, originating mostly from the former African colonies such as Algeria and Morocco, live in France. Prime Minister Jean-Marc Ayrault, who will chair a ministerial meeting next month on improving integration, based partly on the report, told reporters there was no plan to drop the headscarf ban and distanced himself from the study. Just because I receive a report doesn't make it government policy, Ayrault said, after the Daily Le Figaro drew attention to the document, which was posted on the Prime Minister's official website last month. Among the proposals presented by senior civil servant Thierry Tuot and a group of experts was to forbid authorities and the media to refer to people's nationality, religion or ethnicity, and the creation of a new offence of racial harassment. They also recommended promoting the teaching of Arabic and African languages in French schools. National Front leader Marine Le Pen said implementing the recommendations would be tantamount to a declaration of war on the French people. World at 8, she is right. The French might as well just convert now to save time and trouble later if this new idea is accepted, but I don't believe it will be. Well, not in France anyway. Unemployed told to leave Ireland in desperate move to slash welfare costs. Ireland is asking its citizens to leave the country if they can't find a job in the desperate bid to slash welfare costs. The Irish government has sent letters to approximately 6,000 unemployed people suggesting they should take jobs in other European countries in an effort to reduce unemployment benefits, the Financial Times has reported. Some of the jobs were poorly paid but came with a Mediterranean climate. An unemployed electrician was encouraged to move to Coventry, while another job seeker was offered work as a bus driver in Malta. World at 8. Disgusting, but the EU will love it. World news. For devout Muslim cabbies in New York City, parking tickets are the price of prayers. New York City is home not just to a massive fleet of iconic yellow taxis, but to an amazing diversity of cab drivers. Roughly half of the city's 40,000 odd cabbies are Muslims who hail from countries all over the Middle East, Africa and elsewhere, and a great number of the drivers are observant, praying 5 times a day. Which raises the question, how and where do these men on the move pray? That's why we have an app on our iPhone. We know where is the Mecca, Yusuf Kamal told me. Right now I'm here, right? I check my iPhone, check which is the Mecca. Straight to Mecca, like I am in Mecca right now. Technology. World at 8. Well, his English is clearly not up to much either. So the US lets him in even after 9/11. There's a fool born every minute, isn't there? The West will soon have to really look after its borders, or else we will all be mud-coloured and Muslim. Locks changed on Nelson Mandela's grandson's home. Mandela reportedly has locks changed on him at family home in Eastern Cape as family feud re-erupts after Nelson Mandela dies. Nelson Mandela's eldest grandson has been pushed out of the family homestead in Kuno, according to reports, suggesting the family infighting will get worse now the patriarch has died. The locks on Mr Mandela's Tuscan-style home, which the former South African president built in his ancestral village after his release from prison, were reportedly changed after the arrival of eldest daughter Makaziwe on Thursday. Mandela's friends and close family members, including his mother, were sidelined during Sunday's state funeral for Mr Mandela, according to the Times, and refused access to the burial site. World at 8. You can't put breeding and manners on hold for generations and expect anything else from this lot of greedy, self-obsessed morons. Burqa hides honour beating. It's not just Canada and the US in the West. Honour shame violence has even occurred down under. This was revealed in a recent incident involving the savage beating of a Muslim teenager, reported in the New Zealand Herald. Burqa hid injuries of teen repeatedly bashed. Police. A teenage girl, police believe was beaten at home, was forced to hide her facial injuries behind a burqa, while members of the Muslim community are alleged to have hushed up the abuse. Dr Phyllis Chesler, prominent American feminist and fellow of the Middle East Forum, is an advocate for banning the burqa. Prompted by this New Zealand incident, she responded in a Fox News op-ed, beneath the burqa a bruised and badly beaten teenager. She cites the burqa as a sensory deprivation isolation chamber, is used as a form of torture. A burqa is also an ambulatory body bag, and I oppose this with all my mind and heart as a violation of human and women's rights. World at 8. You would think with this and other knowledge of the workings of Islam that our stupid young cows would not convert at the rate they do, would you? What future is in store for them? More honour beatings or worse? Thought for the day, and there shall be light, innit? Well, not all news is bad news, is it? In the midst of the Mandela fiasco, from which the only way is down, to the so-called British doctor killed by the Assad government, one question that did not cross the lips of the terribly concerned TV presenter was the fact that this guy firstly is not British. He may be born here or may have been automatically given British citizenship, but to me he ain't British or English, no way. Secondly, he went over there, left a perfectly good job to go there to help the rebel civilians. Otherwise, why would he have been arrested a year ago by the Assad government when this rebellion was in full swing, courtesy of the UN, EU and our own mealy-mouthed establishment? It must be remembered in all the brouhaha this suicide will engender on the low news days is that at that time the rebels were on a high, and by this I mean highly motivated and highly funded, and had so-called British-born jihadis coming out of their ears. Perhaps humane concerns were paramount to the good doctor, but the will to support the rebel cause against Assad certainly was, and he entered the country without a visa, like the other jihadis, and was arrested. His treatment was appalling, but that is how all Muslim countries treat their prisoners. And why should the UK have anything to do with a man over 21 who chooses to go to a country for whatever reason during a time of civil unrest? He went of his own free will, and frankly I don't care. If his family keep carping on, they can all go out there forever. Many of the Muslim immigrants to this country come and go from their own countries of origin with a freedom of movement and money not enjoyed by the rest of us. They go and fight wars against our men, they support who and what they like without any recourse to the UK or its laws, and then complain when they get caught by their own kind and ill-treated or killed. I would say they should stay in South London or wherever they settle, but of course I would rather they, for the most part, simply leave. Another bit of good news in an odd way is the fact that our little library, which of course has gone robotic, there was a book on display titled Girl A, which was a story of the grooming, abduction and rape of a very young girl by, yup, you guessed it, an Asian gang of men. I looked at it quickly, and at least in this book they did give Asian names, in fact Muslim names, to her abusers, but no mention of the Muslim faith or their ethnicity. And Asian covers a lot of countries, most of whose inhabitants in this country do not indulge in this particular form of abuse. Compared to the book I bought amongst the other publications on how to approach grooming in the PC way was a book called Stolen Girl by Katie Taylor. Obviously names have been changed, and she goes to live in an Asian area and notes the lovely Indian lady walking along in a sari with her children, and is groomed by a group of lads, obviously Muslim, who call themselves by their shortened English sounding names, Sam for Serim, etc. Also, no mention in this book about the religion of her abusers, the backing and participation of entire Muslim clans, both in the places and times of systematic abuse of minors. If these boys, the prime groomers, didn't have money to buy trinkets, booze and drugs for these children, either earned by them at this trade or given by their relations, what would they do? Their families supply the businesses, the party houses and the punters, and anyone who ignores the fact it is mainly a Muslim community effort is being thick in the extreme. And it's no good bringing out books, however harrowing, without giving the full facts. Without our police accepting it is down to them to protect and serve our children, and without placing the full facts in front of them so they can't ignore them, this really nasty business will continue on until someone, somewhere, breaks out and takes revenge. And then this, of course, will be the fault of some poor father or mother who can't take it any more, and the authorities will view it as a racist attack or a hate crime on their part, not the abusers, groomers or rapists, as it would appear that they are above the laws of this land. So a part light on the arrests and sentencing of a few of these bastards, but we still have to go a lot further to justify the blanket of ignorance which surrounds these crimes in the future for true justice. Another light in the tunnel is a letter printed in the Financial Times on immigration, or rather against immigration, which is a one-off for this particular paper ever. It is well written and states all the reasons why immigration, so massively undertaken by our governments of this small island, is simply not working. Not just now with the Romanians and Bulgarians, but ever. The writer states that immigration has been good for the middle classes insofar it has kept down wage inflation. But the effect on unskilled labour has been bad at a time when technology has made so many unskilled jobs redundant. He goes on to say that immigration has created an acute housing shortage, greenbelt erosion, roads and railways are near capacity, schools and hospitals are overcrowded, and also the overlooked by many sheeples is the fact that importing other countries' problems imposes huge stresses in the UK and even the rest of Europe, where their countries are underdeveloped compared to ours. In short, this letter encompasses everything I, the British National Party, Nick Griffin and many of our reporters have been saying for years. It will have to be stopped, and stopped, not capped. The lack of light comes from the fact that for every one foreign professional we train or take in, there are thousands of their clans who are not either trained, educated or professional, and moreover need help in filling out their benefits forms. And it is these people who will not go home, except to build huge houses and store their English money. Then they will come back and be with us for life. But the light is that this letter has seen the light of day in a pink paper and a financial one at that. Perhaps the message is getting through. Another small light is the fact that Mars UK is shrinking their Mars and Snickers for our own good. Ha ha ha. Wonderful! However, it won't stop them or the large supermarkets allowing them to be sold in huge bags or double packs instead of just single bars, which used to be the norm years ago. We now have all the bad snack foods, sweets and crisps being sold in multiples, just to make sure we all get fatter and unhealthier. Bring back the small sweet shops and the small licensed premises from which you had to buy sweets in small bags or single bars, and booze was limited to the odd bottle due to hours and money. Of course this didn't apply to the really wealthy who used to have large regular orders for their wine cellars, but this rule did not apply to every Tom, Dick or Harriet in those days. So a very small ray there. Another light is the fact that M&S and various other firms are stopping the importation of Angora clothing. I did a piece on this a while ago on the poor little rabbits in Chinese factories having their fur pulled out while still alive, and this awful practice continuing for months until, thankfully for them, death. Now we in the UK not only buy mostly crap from this country, which enables them to create more factories operating along the cruelty lines, goose down fillings, bear bile, cat and dog fur trims, the terrible tiger farms, and to say nothing of the ivory ornaments and jewellery, and the medicinal wants of the rich Chinese for rhino horn, which is supposedly to increase their todger size and propensity. Yuck! In fact, we in the West have given them Africa so they can get more of these endangered animals than ever. But at least some of our companies have got the bit between their teeth and are showing some gumption with the Angora ban. And I hope that our members will avoid anything Angora, Pashmina goat or anything that is made in China, even from a market trader, as they will have paid for it as well. That way a message might reach them that we are not as greedy or stupid as they clearly think we are. Another shining light which has evolved from the powers that be is the fact that methyl isothioazolinonene M1 is being removed from certain cosmetics. Try saying that one. Watchdog reported on the increase in adverse reaction to Pisbuin one day long sun lotion, and specifically a reaction to the ingredient methyl isothioazolinonene. Oh, I'm giving up with that one. M1, and now Pisbuin have announced that it would be removing M1 from all of its leave-on products, and these 4 major brands are following suit: Vaseline, Brill Cream, Huggies, nappies, Nivea. They've all told Watchdog that they are changing the formulation of these cosmetics. However, there are thousands and thousands of brands and cosmetic houses who will not remove this from their range, and I'm talking just about the well-known and expensive brands, let alone the cheap markets. However, it's not such good news from the following brands. They say they will continue to use M1 for as long as it remains approved by Europe. And they are: Palmer's Cocoa Butter, Umberto Giannini, Boots Botanics Conditioner, Boots Fruit Essence Dry Ends Shampoo, L'Oreal Paris Revitalift Day Cream SPF 30, Dove Men & Care Face Wash Sensitive, Dove Deeply Nourishing Body Wash, St Ives Naturally Clear Apricot Scrub Blemish Fighting, Radox Shower Smoothie Spirit Booster and Charles Worthington. However, what worries me is that this chemical is bad for you, and the earlier one becomes exposed to it, the more trouble it could be. I'm talking here of the baby cosmetics sold to very young girls, and most of it is made in, guess? China. Even M&S have some of their lipsticks made in the PRC, and if you think their record with animals is awful, the Chinese-made cosmetic industry is operated without any forms of law of origin and input whatsoever. The manufacturers often have filthy factories, cheap and untested contents, no additives are forbidden by any pharmaceutical or medical body, all are probably tested badly on animals, and you get what you pay for. Now if you're happy as a parent to buy and let your little girl put on such dangerous crap, that's entirely up to you. But what is made in China should really stay in China. We have enough cheap sweatshop cosmetic factories in this country without importing them, and you simply do not know what is going on your child's face for many years. Even teenagers and young adults are prime targets for these particular items, and even Avon as well has everything made in China. And the funny thing is that M1 is the main ingredient of what? Procter & Gamble Fairy Washing Up Liquid. Now this probably has less effect if you have a dishwasher which rinses thoroughly several times, but if you have to hand wash as I do, the effect of this over the years might not just be clean dishes. And we don't want to make the sunshine brighter on the pharmaceutical firms, to whom a healthy population is not a paying population, to the large corporations, both cosmetic and household, to whom all this money paid to them enables them to farm out manufacturing to cheap and uncaring countries like China, which in turn does our people no good and allows the Chinese more funds to build more factories with which to poison us over the years. This Christmas, please look at the labels on everything and make up your own mind. Your health or Chinese money? And finally, a snail's tail or a tall tale. Garage escapes £100 fine after proving a snail ate van's road tax. A snail incredibly ate a car's tax disc, which almost left a garage owner with a hefty fine. John Rolls, 33, found the hefty notice on a broken down van he was meant to pick up in Yeovil, Somerset. But on closer inspection, the garage owner saw a snail eating the last remains of the disc. Mr Rolls' father, Steve, 70, who helps his son's business, tried to contest the fine. It was upheld until police were sent a picture of the snail eating the tax disc. The last remains of the tax disc after the snail ate it. The elder Mr Rolls said, "It's almost unbelievable. I had a bit of a chuckle as I couldn't believe what I saw. I think snails like glue and ink, so maybe that's why it ate the disc. It was very much that dog ate my homework moment, but we still had the penalty notice to deal with." The garage owner's father said he felt it was their duty to contest the fine because the van was in their care when it got the fine. He said, "I suggested we talk to the police and we explained the situation, but they weren't too keen to see the evidence. They said it was still an offence as the disc was not properly displayed." The fine was upheld until police were sent a letter explaining the situation with photos of the snail eating the tax disc. Avon and Somerset police waived the fine and sent a reply back which said both Mr Rolls could interrogate the offender. The letter said, "After consideration of all the facts, I have decided to excuse payment of the fixed penalty. Please feel free to interrogate the offender, preferably with a teaspoonful of salt. Merry Christmas." The hungry snail died after eating the tax disc. Mr Rolls joked that the snail may have eaten too much tax. This presenter says, "Poor little snail." I like snails, and my snails only eat a few things in my garden because I leave them alone. However, hostas are unfortunately their favourite food. It's a shame this one did not survive, but look at the guys, not exactly into saving molluscs, I would think. At least he demolished their disc, which I think is just lovely, and the plods do have a sense of humour, don't they? You've been listening to World at 8. I am Lynn Mozart, and I wish you all a very good night. Killed fighting in Syria, family says. A British man who travelled to Syria to fight for a group linked to Al-Qaeda has been killed, his family has said. Iftikhar Jarman from South Sea, Hampshire, said he joined up with the jihadist group the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, ISIS. The 23-year-old, who is thought to have left the UK in the spring, told the BBC it was his duty because Muslims were being slaughtered. The Foreign Office said it was aware of reports of a British national had died. A spokesperson added, "The UK has advised for some time against all travel to Syria, where all UK consular services are suspended. As we do not have any representation in Syria, it is extremely difficult to get any confirmation of deaths or injuries, and our options for supporting British nationals there are extremely limited." Mr Jaman's family during the 2-2 draw last weekend. West Midlands police are treating the incident as a hate crime and are liaising with Cleveland police. PC Tim Gant from West Midlands Police said police are investigating a report of a hate crime which happened during the football match between Birmingham and Middlesbrough on Saturday the 7th of December. Last night, Muslim MP for Perry Barr, Khalid Mahmood, said the alleged offenders should be charged with incitement to religious hatred. He said if these allegations are proven, then the culprits should be dealt with severely and be charged with incitement. World at 8. I would think the plot are doing their nuts over this one, a really good so-called hate crime to get their teeth into before Christmas. Hope they don't have a real black-on-white hate crime to interfere with it. Britain, Iftikhar told the BBC that he was killed while fighting forces loyal to the government. It is believed he was integral in persuading at least 4 or 5 other British residents to travel to Syria to fight. World at 8. From South Sea, I don't think so. Well, not his parents anyway. No Muslim is British or from anywhere in the UK. They should all be known by their origins, not ours. One word, good. The more the merrier. Who die for Allah suits me just fine. Girl Guide group told to ditch God or be expelled. A Girl Guide group faces being thrown out of the National Association after refusing to force members to drop God from the oath. Troop leaders have rejected new rules, saying that the inclusion of God should not be compulsory but a matter of personal choice. But they have now been sent an aggressive letter
You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number 1 in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, the 18th of December 2013. Koran was ripped up at Birmingham City match. Britain, Iftikhar Jarman killed fighting in Syria, family says. Girl Guide group told to ditch God or be expelled. I'm No Kafar follows up on Monday's report from Edinburgh where Wayne Stillwell received 10 months for his bacon attack on a Potterau mosque. Casa Pound leader receives 3 months in jail for taking EU flag from EU's Rome offices. France should allow headscarves and teach more Arabic in schools, report to PM. Unemployed told to leave Ireland in desperate move to slash welfare costs. For devout Muslim cabbies in New York City, parking tickets are the price of prayers. Locks changed on Nelson Mandela's grandson's home. Burqa hides honour beating. Thought for the day, and there shall be light in it. And finally, a snail's tail or a tall tale. UK News. Koran was ripped up at Birmingham City match. Police are treating allegations that Boro fans ripped up copies of the Koran to goad Blues supporters during a match as a hate crime. Middlesbrough FC immediately suspended 2 of their fans from all of their games after claims that they provocatively tore out pages from the Muslim holy book